Hello, Bill.
Good morning, Matt.
Welcome to the DMZ, everybody. I am in New York City, the greatest city in the world, according to the Hamilton musical, at least. And I'm feeling surly. I'm tired. I'm in a bad mood. I do have a Starbucks, but I want to hear about you, Bill, Scher, and this birthday celebration that is really, I think, changed the way that we do birthdays now from now on, indefinitely.
Well, my birthday was a little marred. You can't see, Matt, but I need a little eye protection today. I scratched my cornea 2 hours before my birthday officially commenced.
As
I
is
had
your
a run-in
as
with
is your annual tradition. Let's be honest.
yes.
This is a long-standing share family tradition. Painful, but
I had a run-in with what you're seeing here. If you're listening to the podcast, you can't see what I'm showing. If you're on the Blogging Heads TV portal, this is a accessory to a 1950s era easy bake oven. This is the popcorn attachment. As you see, the product safety standards of the 50s was not quite what we have today. So we have these very sharp edges on the corner here.
wait, you got cut by an
And
easy bake oven? Is that what I'm hearing?
by an easy bake oven popcorn attachment.
You know, I can't tell you how
Uh,
many millions of Americans every year are struck down by easy bake ovens. Should I be wearing these sunglasses so that we both match? Are
that
you?
might just, I think, that might blind all of
My future is so
DMZ
bright. I have to
America.
wear shades. So how on earth does this how does this happen?
If you must know, so I actually have a speech to deliver. I am delivering the keynote address to the World Affairs Council chapter in Western Massachusetts for their 90th anniversary dinner at the Springfield Sheraton Thursday, October 13th. And I will be speaking on how the Democrats became the National Security Party. So I have a speech to write. I'm doing my research for the speech, and I was trying to. I'm going back to the beginning, and the beginning, of course, is when President McKinley seized the Philippines, which created the backlash that led to the Anti-Imperialist League. And so I was trying to dig up Teddy Roosevelt's role in all that. Roosevelt was a big driver of the Philippines move in the McKinley administration. I was looking for one of my Teddy Roosevelt books. I was kind of flummoxed where it could be. I have a little set of wire basket drawers in my dining room where I do most of my work because I don't have a normal office. And I was pulling out the wire basket, and this popcorn attachment was in the wire basket, protruding out about 6 inches, and popped me in the eye.
Ah, that's not good. Well,
So that marred the birthday
yeah.
somewhat,
Does that
but
mess up
I
your
gotta
your
say,
bowling? I would guess. That's not.
my Candlepin bowling score. So I had to culminate the birthday, the bowling debate watch party at the Great Canal Candlepin Lanes in Southampton, Massachusetts. I recommend highly if you're coming up for a leaf peeping tour this fall. A great way to end your day is at Canal Lanes in Southampton, Massachusetts.
Do they call it
Uh,
leaf peeping? Sounds so dirty, Bill. Is that what they call it up there?
I think that's why they call it that. You gotta dress it up. And my Candlepin score might normally be more in the 90s. Yesterday was more in the 70s. But nevertheless, I muddled through. I got 2 games in before the debate started, and I have to say, the debate delivered in every way possible. That was the most satisfying debate I have ever watched in my life. I'm sure you agree. I mean, just on entertainment value alone,
No,
you
I
have to admit,
completely agree. And I kept hearing from people who apparently are putting country first that they were unhappy with the debate, that they were turning it off. I think it was, from an entertainment standpoint, Bill, this was maybe, I mean, it's definitely the best debate since Bush Gore, I would say. And maybe I was more into that just because of my youthful excitement. But this definitely was a fun debate to watch, no doubt.
The Bush-Gore debates for me were more of a trying experience. I mean, like the first Bush-Gore debate, I'm watching thinking, man, Gore's wiped the floor with this guy. Bush is clearly out of his element in all this, and then the post-debate spin was whiplash for me, and then Gore just got into this overcorrecting mode ever since.
Lockbox.
I mean, Lockbox is sort of lame, but I felt like that paled in comparison to Bush floundering around. And there was a fantastic oral history of that in the New York Times over the weekend.
Yeah. By the way, I don't know when these oral histories. I've just noticed them lately. Where there's a great one in Politico about 9/11, where it's just like a sentence or two from each person who's intimately involved, and is this as new? I haven't really noticed this genre before. I really like it, and the one that you're talking about the Bush-Gore debates was quite good. I mean, you just get sucked into reading those things. It's like you ever read like a book where the chapters are really short, and you just keep it's literally a page turner at that point. That's how these are.
Yeah, no, it was very well done. So Politico did a great one about the '76 Republican Convention in the summer. And this wasn't new, but I think there's a really good one about the '72 convention in Vanity Fair. If you Google around, you can find. I've read it's a good format, and when done well, it really.
Because you're talking to a
360-degree view of a historical event,
and you're talking to the players who by now are willing to tell the truth. Enough time has passed that they're willing to tell the truth. So, like Bob Shrum was like, we explicitly told him. Do not sigh or whatever it was, Or do not
go into space. You don't want him to walk into his space in the third debate.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, we explicitly said do not invade his space. There were several of those, and then the way that the Bush team had started debating super early, but kept it on the down low, and the guy who was like. Playing Gore and the debates had to like sort of get sink down in his or whatever in the car so people couldn't see him coming and going for debate prep.
Right.
Good stuff. Good. Check that out.
Good. But and I obviously you don't have the same memory of this that I do, but I've greatly enjoyed the 2012 town hall debate with the Candy Crowley correction.
Let's not get into that one.
That was very satisfying to me, but. That's just sort of a moment of satisfaction.
I'll tell you what the Candy Crowley debate was like for me. I've blocked this kid's name out, but there was a kid. I don't know why I want to call him Jeffrey Lord. It's not Jeffrey Lord. There was a kid in a Yankees game. The Yankees are playing the Orioles in Yankee Stadium. It's a playoff game. It's the mid-'90s, and the Orioles had won the first playoff game, and this is the second playoff game in Yankee Stadium against the Orioles. And there's a long fly ball to the warning track, and the Orioles outfielder just camps under it. He's about to make, which is a pretty routine catch. He wasn't even going to have to jump. And this little kid, reaches out and takes the ball from him. And they call it a home run. And there's no instant replay at this point. That totally changes the trajectory of that game, the momentum of that game. Instead of going back to Camden Yards up 2-0, now the Orioles go back 1-1. And of course, fate and destiny now, karma is now on the side of the Yankees. And that's how I felt about the Candy Crowley debate. The same sort of thing. Sound off in the comments. Who was that kid? And the worst part is they celebrated him like he was a hero. For that, for cheating, it was horrible.
I would not draw the same parallel, but I understand what you're saying. But this debate, to get back to the present day, I thought it was fairly substantive as far as presidential debates go. It was I didn't think it was a clown show from start to finish, but you still had the personal drama between the two. You have these starkly different personalities. For a lot of it, I felt like they're both playing to the best of their individual abilities. I think Trump's abilities are much more limited, but I did think he came to play, and he started off, talking about the trade stuff. There was an attempt there to say, look, I know things about issues, and I am not afraid to debate policy with Hillary Clinton.
I think Trump's best moment was in the first 10 minutes, where she sounded like a politician, and he sounded like this populist everyman. And I guess if you have to pick a time to have your best 10 minutes, the first 10 minutes are a good place to do it. He faded, and I think she got stronger as the debate went on. Ironically, she had more stamina than he did. But early on, the first few questions, I thought Trump did well. If there was a fear that he couldn't, clearly he's not that knowledgeable about foreign policy, but I don't think it's going to show to the average viewer. I think that that was an unfounded concern, that he would look, what am I going to do with, I got 2 minutes to talk, I got nothing to say. He had no problem filling up the time limitations, with his Trump speak.
Right. Although I think one of his bigger unforced errors was in talking about NATO, where he throws that as an aside, I haven't thought about this much, and then proceeds to deliver a radical policy shift when it comes to NATO. If you're going to propose something dramatically different than what we currently do, don't preface it by saying, I haven't thought about it very much. It fed the notion of a guy who was not taking the job very seriously. And I think that was a indicator of, for a guy trying to make stamina the barometer to judge the two by, he was the guy who started to lose his bearings as the debate went on.
Totally.
Hillary was the same.
And there's, how people talk about there being two Trumps. I think there's two Hillarys. There's like an old, tired Hillary, and then there's sort of a younger, more energetic Hillary. And the problem for Trump was that while he was talking about her not having stamina, the split screen showed her kind of glowing and smiling and looking energetic. So I think that argument completely fell apart. I'm not saying it's fair, but at that moment, it looked like a completely bogus argument.
And that was, I thought, a dumb move on Trump's part in the pregame. Why are you setting the bar at stamina when you've seen Hillary in an 11-hour congressional testimony situation? There's no reason to assume she's going to walk into that trap and have a coughing fit or become incoherent and start to meander. That's not the Hillary that we've largely seen.
Yeah.
Although there are, why set the bar there?
The one thing, this is the obvious thing the caveat that we should throw down two more debates, and we've seen Reagan radically different in '84 between his first debate and his second debate. Barack Obama radically different, his first debate against Romney pretty much a disaster.
Those are debates with incumbent presidents.
True.
And there is a pattern of incumbent presidents having weak first debates and recovering in the second. There's sort of an inherent mismatch for an incumbent president to have to defend 4 years of stuff, and a challenger being able to pick spots. First debates tend to have bigger ratings than the other two. And I think a tone was set here. The undercurrent of this entire race is there's only one person here who's remotely qualified for this job out of these two. And it's we talked about this last week. There's a threshold for Trump to cross. Are you a plausible commander-in-chief here? Which I would say he did not cross.
I think he passed the credit. I think he passed the knowledge credibility test. I do not think he passed the temperamental test. And that's why I think he lost, in my estimation, he lost the debate. And further, if you look strategically about what Trump needs to do to win, it seems like the low-hanging fruit is simply to get Republican women back on board. I mean, he's got it to a point now where the race is essentially tied, but he's dramatically underperforming with Republican women. Romney got around 92, 93%. So did McCain and Bush. Trump's getting about 72%. So if that is the one thing that you want to accomplish in a debate, and then you win, why would you have this performance? This is the exact opposite performance that you would want to have if that were your strategic goal.
Well, I think we should recognize that Trump has never been a good debater. Trump is not that good a candidate. Trump is way, far more so than George W. Bush in 2000, way out of his element. And those of us who have been Trump skeptics from the beginning, who have been mocked mercilessly since the primary, I think get a chance to re-articulate the argument, which is that Trump in the primary debates was always bad, never presented himself as a serious candidate, never was fast on his feet, repeatedly said things that got him in trouble and damaged his reputation. That has been masked by the fact that he was able to dominate post-debate coverage by saying various crazy things like attacking Megyn Kelly and such. And he had a strategy, by fluke or by design, to dominate media coverage by outlandish behavior and soak up all the oxygen, which was sufficient in a multi-candidate race with a voter pool that is only a small faction of the broader electorate, and the plurality vote total is sufficient.
So what you're suggesting is that Trump needs a stunt.
Just to tie it off, just to assume that because he got away with it at that double A ball level, to say, wow, Trump is a master media manipulator. The rules don't apply to Trump. Trump can get away with all sorts of things. I think yesterday definitively disproves that theory. Once you get into the big leagues, to use a Trump phrase, those kinds of pathetic tactics don't work.
Well, I don't think we know that yet. I mean, we don't know that it didn't work. I think your hypothesis is entirely plausible, and I lean toward agreeing with you, but we don't know that it won't work. We don't know where the polls are going to go after this. I mean, our political instincts and conventional wisdom suggest that this maybe at least at the bare minimum stops his momentum. But what if it doesn't? What if it wasn't just primary voters? And what if he comes out with a stunt today to suck up more oxygen and change the subject? And what if the first 10 minutes are the part that mattered, where people were tuning in? And what if people say, yeah, Trump wasn't great, but he seemed authentic. He seemed like a real person. She seemed like a politician. I mean, we don't yet know that he lost that debate.
You don't believe that's true, though. You don't think it's what's going to happen.
No. I agree with you. That's my instinct is the same as yours, because we both are people who follow politics closely, and we're basing our political judgment off of past experience. But this year's been a different year, and Trump is sui generis, and so I think that we just, out of deference for what an odd and weird 2016 it's been, we don't really know how this is going to shake out. I think there's a chance that a couple days from now, Trump somehow went up after this. Somehow went up in the polls after this.
But we're not flying blind here. We have lots of data and examples of the past year. Trump's unfavorable number has been 60 and over for almost the entire course of the campaign, going back a year. I mean, I think his best has been mid to upper 50s. His general persona has never been a winning persona for the broader electorate. Hillary's numbers aren't great, but they've generally been roughly 10 points better than his. we have the experience of the two conventions. They both had back-to-back conventions. Trump had a brief bounce at the end of his, but the net of the two, when you saw both of them at their peak, juxtaposed next to each other, Hillary comes out ahead when the two are side by side. When there is an emphasis on the foundation or the emails, that's a negative for Hillary. Obviously, the pneumonia video was bad for Hillary, and then we had tightening in the polls after that in September. But seeing the two side by side, Hillary Clinton in commander-in-chief pose, Trump being blustery Trump.
Yeah.
I think the evidence over the past year is that is a win for Hillary, and it's basic common sense that the average voter does not want to take a flyer on somebody who is manifestly not up to the task and doesn't present himself as somebody you would normally envision as a commander-in-chief figure. So I don't feel like there's a dividing line in the punditry here between people who say, You elitist beltway hack, how dare you assume Trump can't win? You just don't know how real people think. And then there's another side that says, you elitist beltway hack, why do you assume the American people are so stupid and racist and that they can be conned by this guy? But I was more in the latter camp than the former, based on the fact that Obama's won 2 elections, based on the fact that Trump's unfavorables have been bad this entire time, and based on the fact that when Hillary has had debates like this in the primary and in the convention where she's striking that pose, she does well.
Yeah. A couple quick observations. The sniffling, did you notice that, Bill? The sniffling.
Oh, yeah.
It's weird. I feel like if you ever have a debate, you need somebody, because there were no breaks at all during that debate, right? It was just an hour and a half straight.
Right.
So
right.
You need a way, whether it's that George W. Bush wire up the back telling you what's going on, but you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know if the sniffing is coming through. Like, obviously, it was coming through over the microphone. I've seen people on Twitter say that he does it all the time. I've never noticed it before. It seemed weird, and especially for a guy who is attacking Hillary for being like sort of sick and low energy or whatever. Anyway, that seemed to be something that a lot of people picked up on.
I mean, for a guy, I felt that Gore was unfairly maligned for the sighing. And I heard the sniffles, and I said to myself, I'm sure this is going to be a thing. Of all the things I don't like about Trump, if he had the sniffles one night, that's not something I really would hold against him.
No, but it's especially, people would have obsessed about it anyway, but I think it's especially fair game because Clinton's health has been an issue, and because Clinton, I think, earlier on, I think you said they both brought their best game. I don't think Trump did, but I think that's Hillary at her best. There's a big...
My point is that Trump's best game is not very good.
Well, look, I think that if he could have... he couldn't hold it together. I just don't think he has the discipline to hold it together and to right. Not take the bait. But I thought that was her at her best. I thought she was very good. She looked energetic. She looked happy. The other thing too that we've sort of alluded to here, but I don't think we've directly addressed it, is the sort of the sexism issue or the gender issue, right? We can think back to the Rick Lazio moment. And I don't think we know yet if Trump had a Rick Lazio moment last night. Now, he didn't invade her space. He didn't walk over and try to make her sign something. But he interrupted her a lot. And in a way, Trump is the least sexist person you'll ever meet because I think he treats women and men completely equally. He shows no deference at all and has no chivalry. So maybe we should be applauding him as a 21st century man. But I wonder if that, I was talking earlier about how important Republican women are. I don't know. Look, if you were managing or advising a male candidate, sort of a generic male candidate who's going up against a generic female candidate, you would the biggest thing you would say going into any debate would be just be careful with that. do not look to be lecturing or pushy or patronizing. And Trump obviously didn't care about that. Now, it may be that people don't see Hillary Clinton as a woman candidate. In a way, that's a sign of progress. She's transcended that. And it also may be that, but it may be that we're past that, too, with anybody. Well, I don't know where that's going to shake out.
There's something to the quality of the interruption. You know, Chris Christie interrupted Marco Rubio when Marco Rubio was giving robotic talking points to call him out on giving robotic talking points. Nobody said, "How dare you, Chris Christie, for interrupting," because people love the interruption. They love the fact that someone was calling him in real time on it. If you're going to interrupt, if you're going to break the formal rules of the debate, you better have a good reason, not just to bluster and say things that are incoherent or disingenuous. I mean, that's where, I mean, so Trump is repeatedly interrupting her, but not bringing any valuable information into the conversation, which is classic mansplaining, and that I think is going to rub people.
Well, but I think she handled it really well. I mean, there were a few moments fairly early on where I thought Lester Holt, that's the guy's name, right? The moderator lost control. All of a sudden, it sounded like, what is that? A college football coach? Where Lester Holt lost control of the debate, but I think that was actually a good thing. And I think Hillary was given back as good as she got. I mean, she was holding her own and sparring back. I will say that Trump, when he is talking, is a master at stopping people who try to interrupt him. Excuse me, I've never seen anybody so good at shutting down interruptions. He's a master at it. So, but
I want to focus on Lester Holt.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let's talk about Lester Holt.
Just testing it out.
I give Lester Holt A++. I came in with zero expectation for Lester Holt. I thought he was going to be completely bland and toothless. Akin to, I mean, I never was a Jim Lehrer debate moderator fan. I thought he was a very toothless moderator. But I thought the questions were substantive questions. You know, they had in the rules of the debate that, 2 minutes, and then time for exchange between the candidates. So it was baked into the rules that it was a little loose and allows for some free-form exchange. And so Lester Holt getting out of the way of that is what you want in a debate. I mean, the big knock of the earlier Commission on Presidential debates was that it was 2 minutes, 90 seconds, and it was just like two press conferences next to each other and no real engagement. And you had engagement here, which is what a real debate should be. So I thought he stayed out of it when he should have stayed out of it.
Yeah, I agree.
But to go back to the Candy Crowley moment and this whole debate on should moderators fact check, I thought he handled it absolutely perfectly. The Iraq question. I mean, I think we talked about this last week, where I said if the moderator is just putting the specific facts in the question, or putting policy in the question, you are setting a high bar for Trump to clear, and they might whine and claim that's biased. But if you're asking a policy question, that's fair game. So Lester Holt did one better than even I was expecting. Puts in the question, when you supported the Iraq War in 2002, which is just a fact based on what he said to Howard Stern, and Trump immediately takes the bait and says, no. Don't buy what the mainstream media tells you. And Lester Holt stuck his ground, like, no, this is what you said. So it wasn't quite a fact check based on something that the candidate said. It was Lester Holt bringing the fact in the first place and sticking to it.
Yeah.
I thought that was a very brave move on his part.
No, I agree. First, it was obvious that Trump could not resist taking the bait. He could never just let something slide. People might have ignored it, and he could have talked about something else. He always takes the bait. Second, I agree with you. I think Candy Crowley uniquely messed up in a way that she was playing the judge. There's a way to fact check, and I think that the danger is that she has discredited the notion of fact checking, because she was essentially playing
among conservatives.
She was judged. No, come on. I think she got it wrong. She got it wrong, and I think she inserted herself.
We disagree on that point.
Well, okay, there's no point. I wrote a piece called "Mrs. Crowley, What Went Wrong with Your Head," which is, if you're familiar with the Ozzy Osbourne, you'll know that the title was a play on words. But anyway, go read what I think about her. I think it was a shameful. But I think I agree with you. Lester Holt did a very good job moderating. And the other thing I was going to say is I watched, after the debate, I was watching Chris Matthews, MSNBC's post-debate coverage, and he had Kellyanne Conway on. And she is like incredibly good at dissembling. It was an art form, Bill. Did you see this?
I did not.
So it basically went like this. Like Chris Matthews would say, Donald Trump he says he was against the war, but that's not true. And she's like, no, he says he was, no, he says that he was against the war early. And Chris Matthews is like, okay, he says he was against it, but is there any evidence? Oh yeah, he says he talked to Sean Hannity. He says he talked to, basically, like, Chris Matthews was throwing her these hardball questions. It was really intense for like 5 minutes, and she managed to like get away. But if you go back and look at it, there's absolutely no evidence that he ever opposed the Iraq War. And Matthews would ask her pointed questions, and she'd be like, "Oh yeah, he says that." You know, at one point she literally says, he says that," as if that's evidence. It was a very impressive example of spin. And I think we have to tip our hats to her.
Lester Holt asked Hillary Clinton one email question and asked Trump, the birther question. Hillary Clinton answers the email question by saying, "I made a mistake. I take responsibility. It was a bad idea," and you're done. The birther stuff went on and on and on because there's a basic factual inaccuracy, which is, you kept pushing this after you produced the birth certificate. What made you change your mind last week that you now accept it? They just doesn't answer, and you get caught in that. Say with the Iraq War, there's a basic fact. You were on Howard Stern, asked about this point blank beforehand, and you said, "Yeah, I guess so," in support of going in. And why can't you just say, "Yeah, I was given that question early on. I gave a snap answer. You can hear my voice. I hadn't really thought it through yet. And then after things got going, I could see what a mistake this was. And since 2004, I've been very consistent."
Yeah.
Why is that so hard? That's a very basic thing.
That's the other thing.
That would be true.
Yeah, so Chris Matthews would be like, is there any evidence that he ever opposed the Iraq War before it started? And she'd be like, "Yeah, he was a private citizen then. You got to realize he wasn't in the Senate. He was a private citizen then. But is there any evidence?" "Yeah, he says to Sean Hannity." And it was amazing, just going in circles.
He's a private citizen now.
But he was a businessman out there creating jobs, Bill. But you can watch that.
The whole campaign is, "I'm a businessman, vote for me." Well, then under that logic, anyone who is not a politician should run for president, and everything they have said for the entirety of their lives is completely irrelevant just because they've never been a politician before. Vote for me for president.
Well, remember Scott Walker? No, Scott Walker even said that because he wasn't in the Senate, that the things he said didn't matter because he was just the governor.
Which was a ludicrous answer, and he got kicked out of the race early because of dumb answers like that.
Well, anyway, we should keep this on the shorter side, so hopefully they can get it up the day after the debate. But my wife said that someone she knows was talking about your column and Real Clear Politics. But she didn't put it together because they were saying Bill Scher or something at first.
Were they saying, "Can you believe what that Democratic hack wrote in Real Clear Politics," or were they saying this was a thoughtful and interesting column?
No, this was a conservative person who liked the column.
Interesting, because I got a lot of pro-Trump hate mail. So the column was, so I'll talk about this quickly.
I said conservative, not a Trump fan, a conservative.
Okay. So the column was, Trump has the path to 270, but no vehicle to get there.
Yeah.
And so I looked at all the state polling. So you look at the Real Clear Politics averages for the states, and as it stands as of Monday, you would give Trump 266 electoral votes, and you need 270. So you got 206 from the Romney states, so you're assuming he holds North Carolina, Arizona, and Georgia, which the current averages says that he would, although in North Carolina, Arizona, just barely. You could then give him Ohio, you can give him Iowa, you can give him Nevada, you can give him Florida, just barely, 0.1%, and you can also give him the Maine 2nd Congressional District. He's actually up by a lot there. He's up by about 9 points in northern Maine. That's one electoral vote. All that to get you to 266. So he needs one more state after that. And you got a handful of states that are within 5 in the averages. Colorado, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Michigan, Wisconsin, and New Hampshire. And Colorado is the best bet of all of those because you can at least find one poll where he's ahead and one poll where they're tied, even though the average is still leading Hillary. So that's the path. Now, and again, you got to hold North Carolina, Arizona, Georgia. So the second part of the column was to realize that path, you really need to have a ground game. These are not blowout states. These are states where you're gunning out, races that might be down to a few thousand votes. And all the reporting on their respective ground games is that Hillary Clinton has a state-of-the-art, technologically advanced ground game that's been, invested. The DMZ has invested in it for years. The Clinton people have the Obama model to work on. They have the technology to identify who the unlikely voters are, what their personal interests are. Someone can go to their house, or you can send a text message that really speaks to their specific interests and motivate that person to show up on Election Day. The Trump campaign has barely invested in it at all. They basically outsourced it to the RNC, and the RNC is bragging, hey, we're much better than we were 4 years ago, and then maybe that's true. But at minimum, they don't have their sole objective in electing Trump. If you're in Nevada or Florida and you're trying to elect Joe Heck or Marco Rubio, these are candidates that have won races in the past by winning some Latino votes. So you're going to knock on some Latino doors that are probably not prospective Trump voters. So their interests are not fully in sync. And I would think the fact that Trump is not taking it seriously, he's going to leave some votes on the table. He's not going to have a maximally effective ground game. How do you run the table for this very, very narrow path, assuming the polls even stay this close, which they may not? I mean, there's this based on what we see in September, pre-debate. I don't think he's built the kind of campaign he needs to win the kind of race he needs to win. But all the Trump people are in my grill, saying that I'm a hack and I'm not seeing what's going on the ground. You can say either side is excessively cocky here. You can say the Hillary people are being too cocky because they don't respect Trump. But the Trump people definitely feel like there's this massive wave of outrage that is going to carry the day, and you don't need a traditional ground game to take advantage of that. And that, to me, is you can find cocky Hillary supporters and cocky Trump supporters. I don't think the Hillary campaign is acting in a cocky way. The Trump campaign is echoing what the Trump supporters are saying. I don't need to invest in a ground game here. That strikes me as dangerous.
Yes. Yeah. I ran into somebody. Well, I ran into somebody recently who told me that their criticism of Ted Cruz and Jeff Rowe, his campaign manager, is that they have this hubris that they believe that that they have within their ability to if they do everything right, they'll automatically win. And I think you need both. I think you need luck and the political stars to align, and then you also have to kick ass and work really hard and organize, and basically it's the whole pray as if it all depends on God, work as if it all depends on you philosophy. And it seems like, maybe Cruz is guilty of overestimating how much work and organization matters because the environment matters, and it may be that Trump has the opposite problem, that he's bought into buzz and momentum and hype and PR and the zeitgeist, and thinks that means we don't have to do the organizing. It's funny because I always felt like if you could combine Mitt Romney and Mike Huckabee together, you would have had one great candidate. And maybe if you could have combined Cruz with his organization and his team with Trump and the sort of charisma and the sort of being the man of the moment, that you might have had a really formidable candidate as well.
That's a lot of what ifs, sir.
That's a hell of a lot of what ifs, but that's what we do here in the DMZ. Check out my roll call column. It's titled, I think it's titled "Somebody Had to Win. This time it was Hillary," something like that. I declared Hillary Clinton the winner of last night's debate, which me and 90% of the other observers probably.
You don't want to slate pitch it. You don't want to give the Trump is the one who really won this debate.
No, I should have gone that direction for self-interest PR purposes. Sadly, my conscience and my honesty are often at odds with my career. So,
well, I have nothing else to plug, but I am going to show off what I got at the Whately Antiquarian Book Center for my birthday.
Yes.
This here is The Life of William McKinley, the complete story of his assassination. This is a 100-year-old book here. Very exciting. And I also got The Man He Defeated, William Jennings Bryan. This is his first-hand account, the first battle. He wrote right after, I think, 1897 or something like that. So lots of fun reading ahead for me once I get all my other once this election is over.
And the irony is you can't read now, you can't see, but you got the books. Speaking of William McKinley, let me give a plug out to my friend Jamie Weinstein. Do you know Jamie, Bill? Are you friends with Jamie?
I think I did a show with him once. I think maybe he was subbing for Hugh Hewitt.
Probably. So Jamie just launched his own podcast. I think it's called The Jamie Weinstein Show. His first guest was Alan Dershowitz, and his guest today is going to be Karl Rove. So if you stumble across any McKinley questions, if you're reading the book and you stumble across a good McKinley question, send it to Jamie. I think it's Jamie_Weinstein on Twitter. And maybe he'll ask Karl Rove, who just wrote his own book about McKinley, right?
Yeah, I never understood Rove's fascination with McKinley. I haven't read his book, but he always argued that he wanted to replicate the enduring Republican majority that McKinley did, starting in 1896. And I always thought that argument really obscured the fact that that Republican majority involved Teddy Roosevelt, who was ideologically the opposite of William McKinley. And Woodrow Wilson was in there too, in the middle of all that. So I didn't quite get what Rove was so excited about by talking this time in history.
Go get the book and find out, and check us out on Twitter at DMZ Show, and we'll see you back here next week. Happy birthday, Bill Scher.
Thank you.
And
until next week, sir.
Get better. Rest up, and we'll see you all back in the DMZ next week. Thanks.